Hello hockey fans, Oddman Rush here, and welcome back to another episode of Whatever Happened To, the series where we take a where are they now look at players who found success in the National Hockey League but are no longer permanent fixtures in the league, either due to controversy, poor play, or just rotten luck. In today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at a 16-year veteran of the league and a 6-time 20-goal scorer, as we ask, whatever happened to Loui Eriksson? The 33rd pick of the 2003 NHL draft by the Dallas Stars, Loui Eriksson would spend the following 2 seasons after his selection in his native Sweden, where he suited up for a handful of teams during that span and scored 27 points in 85 Elitserien games. After spending most of the 04-05 season with Frölunda HC, and after potting 14 points in 39 games with their senior team, the teenager would finally secure a contract overseas, as he signed a 3-year entry-level deal with Dallas on August 24, 2005. Having put pen to paper on his first NHL contract, Erikson would join the Stars organisation for the 05-06 season, and though he would spend the entire year in the minors with the AHL's Texas Stars, the Swedish forward would make quite the first impression for his organisation, as he finished the year with 31 goals and 60 points in 78 AHL games, while also being named the league's Rookie of the Month for March 2006. The following 06-07 season would see Erikson build off his strong stint in the minors and work his way into the show, as he earned a place on Dallas's roster out of training camp and suited up in his NHL debut. From there, the former second-round pick would spend most of that year, as well as the following 07-08 season, almost exclusively with Dallas, where he saw his production rise from 19 points in 59 games during his rookie year to 31 points in 69 games during his sophomore season. He wasn't lighting the league on fire or anything, but Erikson had clearly earned his spot on an NHL roster. Once the 07-08 season had concluded and his entry-level contract had expired, both Dallas and Erikson were eager to keep their partnership going for a little while longer, as the Stars signed Erikson to a 2-year, $3.2 million contract extension worth $1.6 million a season on June 27, 2008. So thanks to him cementing his reputation as an NHL regular, and thanks to his improved production from one year to the next, Erikson would be sticking around for the foreseeable future and had earned a pretty sizable raise in order to do so. Luckily for both the player and the organisation, this deal would work out very, very well. The next 2 years of Eriksson's career would see the forward burst onto the scene and become a top producer for the Stars seemingly overnight. After all, not only would he register his career high in goals during the 08-09 season by potting 36 goals and 63 points in 82 games, the Swedish forward would be even more productive during the following 09-10 season, as he finished the year with 29 goals and 71 points in 82 games. As you might expect, this dramatic improvement prompted Dallas to lock Erikson up long-term as quickly as they could, as they signed him to a 6-year, $25.5 million contract worth $4.25 million a season on October 2, 2009. Given that he was scoring at almost a point-a-game pace, I don't really blame them, do you? Now, if you thought that Erikson would take his foot off the gas after earning his first big payday, oh boy would you be mistaken, as the forward would continue to put up solid scoring numbers during the first 2 years of this deal. For example, Erikson registered his career high in points during the 10-11 season with 27 goals and 73 points in 79 games, as well as being a finalist for the Lady Byng Trophy too, before following up with 26 goals and 71 points during the 11-12 season too. Considering that the latter year was his first season with an A on his jersey as well, Erikson was leading by example and then some. So during the opening years of his deal, Erikson had registered some of the best numbers of his career, he had embraced a leadership role on the team, and he had proven that he was worth every penny of his new contract. As he prepared to enter year 3 of this deal, the 27-year-old was eager to keep up the good work and show no signs of slowing down anytime soon. But first, there was a lockout! During the 12-13 lockout, Erikson would take his talents back across the pond and briefly return to Europe, as he joined HC Davos of the Swiss National League. After playing 7 games in Switzerland, and after potting 6 points during that span, the NHL would resume operations and Erikson would return to Dallas. Having rejoined the Stars for the rest of the year, Erikson would pick up where he left off the season prior and continue to produce strong numbers for the team, as he potted 12 goals and 29 points in 48 regular season games. Unfortunately though, this production wouldn't help Dallas reach the playoffs, as they failed to clinch a postseason berth for the 5th consecutive season. So even though the Stars weren't quite there yet, Erikson had once again shown that he was one of the team's most reliable and consistent point producers year in, year out. However, the forward wouldn't be sticking around for much longer. During the 2013 offseason on July 4th, 2013, it was announced that Erikson had been traded to the Boston Bruins, as he was included in a 7-player deal that sent Tyler Seguin to Dallas. So after being drafted by the franchise a decade prior, and after parts of 7 seasons on the Stars roster, Erikson was leaving the only NHL team he had ever known, and he was making the move to New England. Though he wouldn't reach the same heights as his lengthy time in Dallas, Erikson would produce quite the successful tenure with his new team. The next 3 years of Erikson's career would see the forward don the black and gold of Boston and show a gradual improvement in his numbers from one year to the next. After potting 37 points in 61 games during his debut year in 13-14, the former second-round pick would improve to 22 goals and 47 points in 81 games during the following 14-15 season. However, the 15-16 NHL season would see Erikson register his greatest performance as a Bruin, as the 31-year-old scored 30 goals and 63 points in 82 regular season games. Despite this improved scoring though, Boston would reach the postseason just once during Erikson's 3 years on the team, where the forward potted 5 points in 12 games during the 2014 playoffs, as Boston were eliminated in the second round by the Montreal Canadiens. Once his 6-year contract he had originally signed with Dallas had expired, and with him coming off a bounce-back year, Erikson elected to test the market and enter the 2016 free agency class. Though he had become a UFA for the first time in his career, the forward was expected to earn quite the payday, as he was one of the only 30 goal scorers that was available on the open market. Thankfully, the 31-year-old would get his wish and then some, as on July 1st, 2016, Erikson signed a 6-year, $36 million contract worth $6 million a season with the Vancouver Canucks. So thanks to his lengthy tenure as a productive scorer, and thanks to his recent season in Boston, Loui Eriksson had just signed the biggest and most expensive contract of his entire NHL career. Due to his unfortunate performance in the years that followed though, this deal would also become his last. The 16-17 season would see Erikson join the Canucks for the first time and look to make a strong first impression for his new team. Unfortunately though, the forward would struggle to reach expectations almost immediately out of the gate, as he scored an own goal during his debut game with the team. He potted 24 points in 65 games over the course of the year, and he missed the final few weeks of the season due to being shut down with an injury, so it's safe to say things could have gone better for him, right? Though many hoped that this was a minor setback and that Erikson would return to his previous form, the next 2 years of his career wouldn't go much better, as the forward continued to produce almost identical scoring numbers as his debut year with the team. Though his scoring pace would improve during the 17-18 season, since he potted 23 points in only 50 games that year, the former second-round pick would register 29 points in 81 games during the following 18-19 season, a far cry from his 30-goal, 70-point performances of years past. Having potted 76 points in 196 games during his first 3 years in Vancouver, and having missed nearly 50 games due to injuries during that span, Erikson was clearly struggling to be the guy that the Canucks had signed back in 2016, a fact made even worse by Erikson having earned approximately $18 million during that time frame. So, would Erikson get things back on track during the second half of his contract? Would he return to his previous form during the final 3 years of his deal? No, he wouldn't. The next 2 seasons of Erikson's career would see the forward somehow play even worse than his opening stint with the team. After registering his lowest scoring numbers since his rookie year during the 2019-20 season, the Swedish forward would end up playing just 7 NHL games during the following 2021 season, as he was made a healthy scratch for much of the year, and he was even placed on waivers on February 10th, 2021. That said, Erikson would join the Canucks during the 2020 playoff bubble, where the forward went scoreless in 10 games, as the Canucks were eliminated in the second round by the Vegas Golden Knights. So during his first 5 seasons as a Canuck, Loui Eriksson hadn't come close to expectations. He had registered 90 points in 252 games, and he had cost the team a whopping $30 million during that span. That's over $330,000 per point that he scored. Though he had 1 year left on his contract, and it seemed like Vancouver would be stuck with him once again, Erikson would be on the move before the year began. During the 2021 offseason on July 23rd, Vancouver would trade Erikson to the Arizona Coyotes as part of a 5-player deal that saw both Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Connor Garland join the Canucks. So after spending half a decade in Vancouver, and after producing a lackluster tenure with the team, Erikson would play out the final year of his contract as a member of the Coyotes. Due to his performance in the coming months though, Erikson's first year in Arizona would also become his last. The recent 21-22 season saw Erikson join the Coyotes for the first time and look to bounce back after several years of declining play. Though he wouldn't come anywhere close to his career-high numbers in Dallas, the 36-year-old would produce somewhat of a successful season, as he suited up in his 1,000th NHL game on December 6, 2021, and he potted 3 goals and 19 points in 73 regular season games. Despite registering his highest point total in the last 3 seasons, Erikson wouldn't return to the Stanley Cup playoffs, as Arizona failed to reach the postseason for the 2nd year in a row. Once his 6-year contract he had originally signed with Vancouver had expired, and having clearly become a shell of his former self, Arizona expressed little interest in keeping Erikson around, so the forward entered free agency once again. Having become a UFA for the 2nd time in his career, Erikson failed to attract the same kind of attention as his first time around, as his limited production and his recent injury troubles made teams focus their attention elsewhere. As free agency came and went, and with Erikson still unsigned, the forward knew that his NHL career was all but over, so he took his talents back to Europe and returned to a familiar team, as on November 10th, 2022, Erikson signed a 1-year contract with Frölunda HC of the Swedish Hockey League. So after 17 seasons in North America, and after playing over 1,000 games in the NHL, Erikson was heading back to his homeland and rejoining his former franchise. Ooh, don't you love it when it all comes full circle? To this day, Loui Eriksson is still a member of Frölunda HC's roster. Though he would struggle to find his footing during his opening months with the team, and though he has only potted 13 points in 28 games at the time of this recording, the 37-year-old forward has picked up the pace in recent weeks, as he has potted 7 points in his last 10 games and 4 in his last 5, which is a pretty respectable stat line if you ask me. With the SHL season concluding in May, and with Eriksson's contract expiring shortly after, the forward will likely have 3 options once this season concludes. Either he will re-sign with Frölunda for the foreseeable future, he will take his talents elsewhere to a different team in Europe, or he will hang up his skates and retire from the sport. Now, while his recent play shows that he still has some gas left in the tank, given that he will turn 38 years old this July, you wouldn't blame him if he called it a career, would you? I mean, the guy has spent nearly 2 decades as a pro hockey player. He's certainly earned a rest, you know? But regardless of what he does next, there is no denying that Loui Eriksson produced quite the impressive NHL career. After all, in 1,050 regular season games, Erikson potted 253 goals and 613 points, as well as 14 points in 44 playoff games too. Add to that his 6 20-goal seasons, his various medals on the international stage, and his $64 million in estimated career earnings, and he certainly could have done a lot worse for himself, all things considered. Not bad for the 33rd pick of his draft class, eh, folks? And there you go, that's what happened to Loui Eriksson. What do you guys think about Eriksson's NHL career? Was it good, bad, or do you think that he should still be playing in the league today? Let me know in the comments below, I would love to hear what you guys think. But thank you very much for watching, guys, I do hope you have enjoyed. Please feel free to like, subscribe, share, or watch some of my other videos. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye! A big thank you to Bexy93, Burned Retinas, Drew Fawcett, Houston NG, Raquel, and Worthless Pieces for helping support this video via Patreon. If you too want to help support the channel a little bit further and get a shout out at the end of every future video, make sure you head over to patreon.com/oddmanrush and become a patron today.